So there was a question asked of me today to explain the difference between a layered file and a flattened file. And those are the two of the deliverables that I'm asking you to turn in at the end of this exercise. So I have my VR monkey open in Photoshop, and I am completely done, and I'm getting ready to turn the project in for the exercise. If we look over into our layers panel, we will see here that these are all our layers. So this is a layered file. It is a file where I can open it up in Photoshop and check to see if you have created layer masks and used non-destructive photo editing techniques. So this is our layered file. So once I'm at this point within my process and I'm done and I'm ready to turn this in, I'm going to come up, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to have a folder on my desktop, and up in the name, I want to call this EX2, and then my last name, and then maybe composite or something that describes what this exercise was about. And that's all I have to do. The format should be Photoshop by default, which includes our layers, and it embeds a color profile. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to hit save. And once Photoshop is done saving, that is the file that I need to turn in. That's the layered Photoshop file that needs to be turned in. Now the flattened JPEG, what that means is what we're going to do is we're going to come up to File and go down to Export and go to Export As and click on that. Export As is going to come up. And if I zoom into this window and move this window up so we can see, we're going to go over into our file settings, and in our format, we're going to do a JPEG, quality 100, and everything else should remain the same. And what we're going to do is we're just going to hit export, and that's going to pop up our Save As window. So in that same folder or that same location that I just saved my PSD file, I'm going to save a JPEG. Exercise 2, Macmillan Composite JPEG. It's inheriting the name of your Photoshop file that you have open. And I'm going to hit save. And at that point, you have saved both a JPEG, a flattened file, and the Photoshop file. But let me show you what that JPEG looks like. So I'll go up to File, Open, and I'll locate that JPEG on my desktop, and I'll click Open. So here's the JPEG. So if we go over to our layers, you'll notice that it has flattened. It has merged all those layers that were in my Photoshop file, and it has created a single layer. And this creates a smaller file, a high res but smaller file than the Photoshop document. So here's the Photoshop document with all my layers, and here is a flattened JPEG with just one layer, which is the background. And it's very important to remember to go to File, Export, Export As to export your JPEG. There are other methods where you can save a JPEG and flatten your image and actually lose your entire working file. So we don't want that. So just to reiterate, File, Export, Export As, and then follow the steps that were detailed previously in the video. So that's all. And if you do run into any problems or have any other questions, feel free just to go ahead and email me. Thank you.